Welcome to the Pastor's Podcast. I don't know if you know this, but it's part of the Jesus Culture Podcast Network. Wes, we got a whole network. It sounds
multiple.
It sounds so grandiose. I don't know when you actually call it a network. We call it a network because we have more than one podcast.
It's like when pastors say that they have campuses. Yeah, you know, at our other campus, and
Yes.
you only. I have two campuses. I have an online campus and an in-person.
We
campus.
literally, we were going to have a church in England a few years ago, and it kind of fell through, didn't work out.
That would have been so cool.
But we called. So we have a church in San Diego, a church in Sacramento, and we have
Jesus
a
Culture Global.
Well, no, so listen, we have this monthly staff meeting and then we've got some translocal employees. So we have this where everybody comes together monthly for this one staff meeting. And at the time we were gonna have a church in England, I just decided to call it Global Staff Meeting.
Global,
because everybody calls everything global, right? So we called it Global Staff Meeting. Yeah, it's somewhat of a joke.
You could have gotten some badges.
Somewhat as a joke, but we were going to have a church in England. And then the church in England didn't work out, and I just kept Global Staff Meeting. But it's more like...
Hey, guys, I'm prophesying.
It's kind of state staff meeting meeting with a smattering of online people from somewhere else.
It's like, and by state, we made central and southern.
It is amazing how much we throw some things in there that just cracks me up. But anyways...
At our global staff meeting,
yes,
everyone lives in LA.
So we have a podcast network, which just means we have more than one podcast. And but we'd love for you to check them out: Authentic You, Man Camp, Sermon of the Week, the Jesus Culture Leadership Podcast, and there's a brand new one actually that just got released, Resistance Renewal, with your friends and our friends, Phil and Emily Manginelli, just talking about how to faithfully follow Jesus in this culture. So Resistance Renewal, there's quite a few. It's fantastic. But make sure you check those out. Also, we do want to make sure you know we have a school leadership and we've got a lot of pastors, 4-month program, a lot of pastors that are in that. A lot. I say a lot. It's all just, I'm in salesman mode right now. I'm just in salesperson mode. And then we do this podcast, which is to be a resource for pastors, church leaders. We actually have a conference as well we've been doing for years. One of my favorite things we do, actually. This is no sales in this. What God is doing at the pastors' conferences every year. We do one in Sacramento in January, one in the UK over the summer. And what God is doing at the pastors' conferences is remarkable, and it's marking. So you can check all of that out. Wes, excited to have you as a co-host today with us.
Thanks for having me.
Pastor of a phenomenal church in Los Angeles, California. Here's what's funny about Los Angeles. You may not be in this segment of town. I remember talking to Jennifer Toledo about this. But anytime I go down to Southern California, probably Orange County in particular, but LA as well, I am not aware of what I'm wearing or what I'm driving until I land in Southern California. Like, it's amazing. When I land down there, I don't know if it's a spirit. I don't know what it is. I'm not to be dramatic, but it is so crazy how that Southern California down there, LA or it is like, I'm like, I am very aware of what I'm driving and what I look like. And how do you pastor right in the middle of that?
Well, I drive a Toyota Prius.
Yes. No, not how do you fall into it, but you're in a culture down there that just is so superficial.
The whole movie industry, everything in LA is just called the industry.
It's just superficial. I know that at their core they're longing for something, but
it's the whole industry is built on how you look, how you appear. And so it's keeping up appearances, all of that. So that's where, your physical appearance, your clothing, your upkeep, all that. It's just
amazing.
It's a part of the zeitgeist of LA.
Just what you do. You have to tell me this story real quick, Wes, because you've been pastoring, you planted your church. And if you haven't heard the other podcast we just did with Tamara Bennett, go back because you'll get some of your story. But you planted in 2019, then COVID hits, trying to find buildings, all that type of stuff. So you've been on a start-stop journey for quite a few years, and then found a building, and really a remarkable miracle story of getting into a building and actually kind of stepping in and taking over another church and your church, all this type of stuff. It's really remarkable. But the point is this, you just told me a story. And I want to say this real quick as well, and I genuinely mean this. I think that we have to stop defining success off of the metrics that we've been using. who you know, how many people are coming,
Where you spoke at,
how big, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I think the Lord loves, and I think the Lord loves faithfulness, and I think He loves obedience. And just do your assignment. The older I get, the more I'm just saying, just do your assignment. Whatever your assignment is, just do that, and take care of who the Lord's entrusted you to. Believe God. So you're right there in LA, believe in God for stuff, and your church it's growing, but it's not massive. I mean, And so, but you're down there in kind of that kind of world. Will you tell that story about, because as a pastor, all pastors are going to understand this moment.
Yeah.
As a pastor, you're just working so hard. You're believing God.
Grinding.
You're getting your systems in place. You're raising up teams. You're going after the presence. You're wanting to see growth.
Yeah. So for context, our churches at the time of this recording, we're 5 years old, but we're 18 months into a relaunch.
Of course.
So we were completely homeless, I guess is what you would say, for 3 years. So at this point, it's a brand new thing. It's like
that's in the middle of COVID, everything else.
Yeah. So someone had visited our church a couple weeks ago. And
I'm already laughing at you.
Not with me. At me.
I'm laughing at you.
I remember where she was sitting, and she's from a larger church. And so she was there about 10 minutes early. So, hey, and so I'm meeting everybody. It's like, we're not in the thousands, we're in the hundreds. And so I'm greeting everybody and I'm talking and I go, hey, so, how's it going? What's your name? And she says her name. Have you ever, and I always ask the question, have you ever been to church before? Because that's in LA, have you ever been? Because lots of people, it's like, no, I've never been in my life. This is it. So she goes, yeah, I've been attending XYZ church. And I was like, oh, that's a great church here in Southern California. It's a very large church. And she looks at me, she looks around the room. It's about 5-10 minutes before church started, and she goes, is this it? is this everyone? And I was like, well, no. I mean, a couple more people coming after the first song. But also there's like this indignation in me. It's like, this is okay.
You're trying not to if she looks around the room and goes, is this it? Is this everybody that's coming to church?
No, usually it's less.
You know what, lady? Why don't you shut up? How about that, all right?
This is our Easter Sunday attendance right now.
And here's the problem as well. You want to clarify, especially in California. I'm like, listen, everybody shows up late, okay? All right, everybody shows up late.
Wait till the second song.
No, the third song, not even the second song. Don't ask me that. Ask me that again on the third song. Huh?
Yeah.
Just the audacity, the boldness of somebody to go, is this it? Is this all that comes to your church?
I was like, well, we're working on it.
First of all, you're early, okay? Okay.
Thank you for being early.
First of all, you're early, so that's not it. All right, more people come.
Yeah, I put her on the kids team that day. I was like, yeah, is this it? If you were to help in the parking team.
Guys, we have a running joke. If you listen to the podcast at all, we have a running joke that when I worship, I don't look around the room until 3 songs in. I just keep my eyes forward, locked on Jesus.
Yeah.
And then at about the third song, I'll look around. Because if I look around before the third song, I'll be like, this is it. I knew it.
This was my last Sunday.
This is it. I knew our church was going to implode. I always knew it.
You like turn your eyes upon Jesus. You're like, no, really.
When the service starts, we always want to say, hey, why don't we get a pass? Let's have somebody get up and just welcome everybody. All right, guys, we're so glad you're here. And I'm like, I don't know why. I mean, we're just going to
welcome to the staff. Staff, thank you for coming because we paid you to be here. Our global staff.
It's literally the one area that I am like, I want to get up. I heard of a church. I'm just afraid it wouldn't work in California, but I heard of a church in Central or Latin America somewhere where they full on, which, Latin America is coming from these cultures where literally there's a coup of the nation and a general is running it. So they're a lot more structured that way. And they just do what their leader tells them to do.
Yeah.
Not in California.
Yeah.
But the church, if services started at 9:00, they lock the doors.
Yeah.
If you weren't in the room at 9:00, you couldn't get in.
Yeah. Which we wouldn't do that for a movie.
I know, but how much would I love that for our church? I would love. There's another church I heard, I kid you not, that they wouldn't let you in unless you had your tithe. Now, I know this starts getting into kind of cult-like stuff,
yeah.
But part of me, I just want to go, if you're not on time and you didn't bring your tithe, you can't get in. Sorry. I'm just going to shut those doors. instead, but that's not what we've done.
That feels a little aggressive.
That's what inside of me. I'm like, yes, we're doing that.
When you say that, all I hear is, "Where are your papers?" Yes. I'm like, okay, my people have been through enough,
Oh, so we don't do that, and so because of that, you
just turn your eyes on Jesus.
And we try to gently just encourage people, but I don't look around to the third song. But I've never had anybody ask me yet. So this is it, huh? So
no,
is this it?
It's not. It wasn't. So this is it. And I was like, is this it? I was like, okay, hold on.
Oh, well, listen.
But here's the thing. Every pastor does it. Anytime I go speak for a friend or go to a friend's church, we all do this thing. I don't know why we do it.
We try to make ourselves look better.
It's like, hey, this week there's a lot of sports. But what's funny? I went to a
Powder Puff. That's what we said. Anytime a guy would come to speak, we'd be like, hey, this week was at youth group. This week was Powder Puff at high school.
Big deal.
And there's like a virus going around.
Everyone got the flu this week. But I went to this business event in Beverly Hills this last Christmas. And I was enjoying myself, having a great time. It's at this nice hotel. And the guy who was hosting the event, it was the funniest thing. He comes up to me and he's all stressed. I'm enjoying myself. There's live music playing. It's a beautiful night, beautiful hotel. You're in a nice part of LA. And he's like, yeah, there's supposed to be more people here. And I go, oh, it hit me. I go, he thinks that
your enjoyment is connected to
how many people are here. And I was like, oh my gosh, first of all, I didn't even notice because I was like, actually, it feels kind of crowded to me.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice. And the second thing, I was like, he's stressing about that. I'm right here in front of him, having a great time. And I was like, and I just made note to myself,
that's interesting.
I'm never going to do that.
You're making somebody feel devalued in that moment that is there when you're internally frustrated that somebody else isn't there.
Yeah. It's like, don't get stuck on that guy.
I have actually, that's a fascinating thought that when we have people in the room and I am frustrated or stressed about the people that aren't in the room, it actually steals from the people that are there.
Yeah. I was looking at him.
He
was looking all around the room and I was like, you know what? I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to, make someone else feel awkward, which they're probably not even thinking about, except for that one girl who visited our church who never came back.
She definitely was like not impressed by you at all.
She was like, when you guys get to 2 services, call me.
I don't go to a church with 1 service.
When you guys get to 3 services, then you can give me a ring.
Well, Wes, here's the amazing thing. Both you and Mark McGovern, you are not just the co-host today, you're also the guest.
Let's do it.
Great to have you on the podcast with us. Wes, we talked a little bit about your story on the other podcast, so if people kind of want to hear a little bit and of that type of stuff. But one of the things that you've really been carrying on your heart is this financial wellness concept. And I think as we kind of look at, all of us pastoring, we want to see our people healthy. I don't know any pastor that wouldn't say, I want to see our people thriving. I want to see our people healthy. I want to see our people moving forward in the things that the Lord's put on their heart, fully engaged in that stuff. And one of those areas that you just have to talk about, if we're going to talk about people actually experiencing wholeness and health and to really be able to go after what God's put on their heart, is ultimately the issue of finances. It seems to be, I tell our people, I'm like, listen, first of all, the Bible talks a lot about money. Jesus talked a lot about money. But also, if we're going to look at, all the stats are different. Like it's the number 1 stress in America. It's the number 2 stress in America. It's the number 1 or number 2 reason why people get divorced or whatever else. You're like, we can't actually approach your life and try to disciple or bring you into a place of real health and wholeness and of following Jesus the way that he says you got to follow him. We can't talk to you about following Jesus. We can't talk to you about coming into a place of healing and wholeness and living healthy and moving to a place of fully engaging all that God has for you and the call of God in your life. We can't do that without talking about money.
Right.
And I think most pastors listening to this, I don't think they're scared. I don't think they're shying away from it. But I do think it's something that we need to be talking about, but not just from the standpoint of, and this is a big conversation, and I want you to jump in. I have questions that are like really long kind of monologues, and then I slip a question in. That's my style.
It's a great intro.
It's just a really long monologue, and then we slip a thing in. But that ultimately, we have to be helping people not just in tithing.
Right.
but actually looking at financial wholeness and financial habits and financial patterns and how to steward money and like that type of stuff, because it's not just, hey guys, you need to tithe. That I do believe that we need to, that I think you should start by honoring God, right? I think at the end of the day, the tithe concept is I'm returning unto God what he gave to me, and that we are making this statement. Everything I have is because of you. I don't have anything that, like, this is a very American concept that, like, what I have, I earned. Right. I worked for. This is mine, and God's like the government trying to come get it from me every time you tell me to tithe. And we're saying, no, everything I have is because of God. The air I'm breathing, the life in my body, the gifts, the skills, the talents, it's all because of God. And therefore, I'm coming unto him, and I'm honoring him with the tithe. I'm honoring him with that first fruits concept. But I do believe as well, as you do, that if we're just teaching people to tithe, but not actually helping them understand how to handle this earthly mammon, that we're not really fully doing them a justice in discipling them. You have a real heart for that. You have a real passion for that. You just wrote a book on it. Can you kind of just unpack that for pastors and leaders, kind of how we're approaching that?
Yeah, well, first off, some of my background is when Vanessa and I moved to LA 11 years ago, actually this month of this recording, we had been pastors for over a decade. We were at our church up in Seattle for 15 years, and we weren't sure why we were supposed to be in LA, but we know we're coming to LA. We moved to LA, and actually because I felt like we're supposed to be in LA, and I get a job offer at a church in Orange County, which if you're listening to this podcast outside of California, it's like, aren't those the same thing? But when you're in LA, you're like, those are two very different cities. And we felt called to be in LA. And so we said no to that church. We're like, we are supposed to be in LA. And so after a couple of months, I was like, I think I just got to go get a job. And so I got a job in finance, in high finance in Beverly Hills, and working on an investment team.
Help me understand, is there something called low finance?
Like a coin store?
No,
when you're like a piggy bank?
No, I understand what you're saying. You're like in high finance. I get the point. But would anybody call something low finance?
No, it's finance, and there's like, I work in banking. There's banking, and then there's like high finance, which you have to have like tests and things that you have to pass.
There was something in high school.
It's like Ivy League.
There was something in high school we called consumer math. There was the consumer math class. There was like, there was like...
It's like AP and calculus, and then there's like the rest of us.
Consumer math.
Like, okay, this will be enough to get by.
So you're not in consumer math. You're in high finance. Okay.
Yeah, and this is what I saw, is that Jesus actually, when he's talking about money, he's like, hey, the people of this world, they're more shrewd with this earthly mammon. And so most people, their theology when it comes to money is God is here either my bridge to get me to money, or he's my shield to protect me from money.
Yeah, wow.
And they're either running to it or running from it, and both of them are wrong because it's putting money at the center instead of Jesus at the center. And so Jesus actually commends the people of this world. He says, hey, these people actually are doing this better. And he uses money almost more than any other topic to describe the things of the kingdom. Parable of the talents. And he's talking about bags of gold. And he's talking about things of the kingdom in a way that people can understand it. And so this is what I saw, though. I saw that some people had their theology right around money. Sundays, they give big. They're like, man, my tithe, I'm blessed. But their Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday was all messed up.
Yeah.
And they were almost looking at tithing like a magic pill.
Yeah.
If I just do this, everything else is good. And it's like, wait a minute. You actually need to, like, tithing is not enough. There's actually a part of this where you have to actually put in some of this work, the practical piece. It's like two wings on the same bird. So I've always like had this business side of me. And I felt like a little bit of an odd duck a lot of times in ministry, like, because I actually enjoy business books and finance books and things like that. But wanting to help people, as I started pastoring and mentoring some of my younger guys and the college guys in my world, they wanted to learn not just about the theology, they're also like, show me how. Like, it's like Paul in Corinthians, he's like, I just want to show you a better way.
Yeah, yeah.
It's Priscilla and Aquila pulling, the young preacher aside. I'm like, hey man, you're really passionate, but we need to teach you doctrine.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And so I just wanted to help. I wanted to help, and I still have that heart to help show people, hey, here's just some practical next steps that they can take.
Yeah. I think as well, I have a real heart because I come from an environment and believe this deeply that the gospel is a gospel of power. So at the core of that for me is that the gospel sets people free from sin and from sickness and from oppression, and that the gospel comes in power. So I 100% believe. We just had a lady healed of stage 4 cancer.
Wow.
And from there, from everything, that's a high healing, by the way. And I'm just come on now. Come on now. That's a dad.
Not the consumer.
That's a dad pastoral joke that's so dumb. But whether it's healing or a headache or cancer or whatever else it is, but I also believe that the gospel of power, that Jesus wants to empower you. So any area where you feel powerless, God wants to empower you. And so that might be relationships. When I look at people, what I see is this: they feel powerless in their relationships. God wants to the gospel comes to empower them in their relationships. They feel powerless in their health. God wants to come and empower them in their health, but they feel powerless in their finances.
Yeah.
And so many people feel powerless around that area of finances. And so I think God, through his principles, through stewardship, through discipleship, actually wants people to be powerful. That they say, no, I am powerful in my finances. I am powerful in my health. I am powerful in my relationships. And so I think it's one of the things why I love what you're doing. Anything that is coming along to empower people, especially in the areas where almost everybody feels powerless.
Yeah, you think about Jesus Culture or the House LA, where I have the privilege of pastoring. One of the top prayer requests we get every single week.
Okay, hold on a second. All I can think of now when you say the House LA is the lady that goes, is this it?
It's a song.
Every time you mention the House LA, I just flash back to that lady in your congregation.
Hopefully someone who's hearing this.
This is now what's in my head. I need to get a new memory of your church. Okay, so go ahead.
But the number one prayer request that most churches get is, I need provision.
100%,
I need finances.
100%.
And think about it this way, is it's not just about the money. Sometimes it's the habits and it's the emotional hangups that we have on the inside that affect our money.
Yeah.
That we need to invite Jesus to come and heal that psychology on the inside of me, or that broken area on the inside of me when it comes to the topic of money. Like when I get stressed, I spend.
Yeah.
When I get sad, I spend.
Yes.
And it's like, it's not maybe I don't need to work on the spending part. I need to invite Jesus to come in and heal some of the broken areas of my heart, because when that button gets pushed, I go and do this.
Yeah.
And actually, I have a whole chapter in my book called The Psychology of Money. And the top 3 ways, Banning, that people overspend is cars, clothes, and going out to eat at restaurants. Like things that we actually maybe don't need that much of, but to impress others, to prove people wrong.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm going to prove to you that I'm successful by showing up in a new car. And so it's not even about transportation anymore. It's about proving someone wrong.
Yeah.
Or it's about making myself feel better. I'm going to go pay for everyone's tab at the restaurant or at the bar or at the coffee shop or something, not because I've got it and I have an abundance, but I'm trying to prove something.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And there's like a broken area in my heart that I need to ask. It's like a sozo. I need to ask, Holy Spirit, will you come and heal this broken area of my heart? Because of that brokenness is not fixed, it's affecting my bank account, which is wild.
Yeah. And I think sometimes too, I think these are discipleship issues as well in regards that. So, this is the whole premise of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is the guy just says, hey, we were taught a lot of stuff at school, but we weren't taught how to handle money.
Yeah.
And so like he said, people don't need more money. They need an education on what to do with money. Yeah. So I think at some level, even in the discipleship realm, we're like, hey, we do need people to come alongside us, whether it's the book you've written or mentors in our life or whatever else, to say, let me help you kind of understand this thing. I remember years ago, CJ and I we were making, decent money in ministry terms. It wasn't like high finance money, but it was decent. It was decent money in ministry.
What was the word, economical, or what was it?
Consumer math.
It was consumer math level money.
It was consumer math level money.
We were doing well there.
But what happened was, I just could not, and I'm a pretty organized guy, so I got my whole budget out, laid it all out. The whole year, right? It's all out, all this type of stuff. And I'm just like, on paper, we should be saving a lot more than we are.
Yeah.
What's going on? And so we went to a guy, went to him. And this is one of the things I would just encourage people, even pastors, bring your finances and submit them to somebody.
Yeah.
Submit them to somebody. Like actually go get somebody that's smarter than you and bring them into your life. So I went to a guy and we just said, hey, we don't know what's going on with this, but will you just come in? And so he said, well, let me see. And so we kind of just told him everything we had, the debt we had or whatever else. And we are people that we don't spend money on cars, clothes, and whatever. Like that's not us. We slowly bleed. Like you're not going to find a boat in my, I'm not even opposed to all that. I'm just saying we're not like rashly spending money on big purchases. But what happened was, which we could have this conversation too, where we just feel embarrassed. It's very interesting how much we feel embarrassed around finances.
Yeah.
We just feel, so I'm going to get to my story part. We feel embarrassed because we know I need to bring somebody in that is better than I am at this. I need to actually submit my finances probably to somebody. One, the pride in us doesn't want to, but also it's just embarrassing. When somebody comes in and goes, well, what's going on? And they're like, you have $20,000 on your credit card? And they're like, did you go out and buy a new car with that? And you're like, no, I don't know, man. Just a lot of trips to Target. I don't know how to do I don't even know how we got that on there, whatever. So it's embarrassing. As leaders especially, we feel like we should know enough and be disciplined enough or whatever else. My point is, so we brought it to him, got through that part, and just had him look at it. And he goes, all right, this is before apps. This is before they track all this stuff now just for you. Yeah. He said, I want you to keep every single receipt for 3 months, and I want you just to put it all in a spreadsheet. So we did. We kept every single receipt. Every single receipt we kept, we poured it all down. And come to find out, we were spending like $500 a month. This is before apps. We were spending $500 a month on coffee on Starbucks.
That's a lot of money.
I know, but with no idea, we would have had no idea at all.
Yeah, because it's $6. It's not.
Yeah, so that's the thing. You bring other people in, and they say, all right, let's look at this thing. Let's have an honest look at it. Let's lay it all out there. Let's get this thing. You're like, oh, well, no wonder, because for us it wasn't. And so my point is this, a lot of this I think is mentorship, discipleship, somebody coming along going, let's give you a better understanding of how this thing actually works. That $6 isn't a big deal until that $6 is multiplied, until that $6 decision happens 50 times this month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then that $6 becomes a different issue. So I think that what you're doing and trying to come alongside people and say, let me help you and kind of see the parts that are broken inside of you that are motivating you, how to actually approach money, debt, all that type of stuff is just so helpful. And I would say that we need to get this we need this to happen in our church cultures, but I also think it needs to happen with us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the thought, you brought up the topic of shame. And I think a lot of people feel shame when it comes to money. Like, I should be doing better. But here's the thing.
Listen, finances, marriage issues, and sexual struggles.
Yeah. And it's like,
I don't want to bring anybody into those things.
I would rather lie and make everyone think, everything's great. It's good.
That's exactly right.
It's good. Everything's great, because I don't want to feel the shame of actually dealing with, hey, there's some dysfunctions. Or here's the thing, is if they've never been taught, how can we expect anyone to know? If they've never had a positive marriage model to them, how do we expect them to know? If they've never had positive finances or good financial behaviors modeled, I'm the product of a really solid, good local church and mentors.
Yes.
That is what made the major difference in my life. I think that God put some skills and some gifts on my life, but really it was a group of mentors, and it was a solid church. So a solid church that taught on giving and God's will for your life, but also some mentors that put their arms around me and was like, Danny, I bought my first home because a mentor was like, you need to turn around and go buy that house.
Yes.
It was him. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
And now, like, after I probably should have wrote him a check or thank you. I think I bought him coffee or something afterwards,
His thanks is your gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, but also, I'm just going to flip my phone over. It's going to ask me a couple questions here.
Oh my gosh. We can't even talk about the tip culture now.
But
I couldn't even get out of one the other day. I was literally, just to prove a point, going to not tip, and I could not even get to the point where there's like, where do I put zero in? Keep going.
Like, the first option is 75%.
Yes.
The second option is your home,
co-sign
from my college.
Anyway,
eliminating that shame, I think, is so important. And just, I think, normalizing, like, hey, not everyone knows everything. And you know what? I don't know everything. And so there's things in my world that I'm like, you know what? I'm so deep in this. In the same way that you'll bring it to a friend, there's something that recently came up for Vanessa and I brought it to one of my friends. I said, hey, you're really smart at this area as well. Will you give me your perspective? I know what I think.
Yes.
Tell me what you think. Give me your perspective, because I don't want to, this is not about me being right. I actually want to move forward.
Yes.
And so eliminating that shame, I actually think with finances, here's the thing. I think finances have more to do with vision than anything else.
Yeah.
Because now my budget is not just about, I've got to beat myself into submission. It's like, I've got to fast until I've got abs or something like that. My budget is actually a plan for my vision.
Yeah.
And so the first question is, where do you want to go in life?
Yeah.
And then your budget, mentors, plans, all of that come alongside to build that life that God has called you to live out.
Yeah, I love it. Well, where can they find what you're doing and how you're walking with people in churches?
Yeah, so financialwellness.club is our overarching website. And that's really just like, hey, it's not just about a book. It's about training people to talk and to think about money.
Yeah.
So financialwellness.club, and the book's on there. Roadmap to your financial future. And
Instagram's got it. I follow Financial Wellness Club on Instagram.
let's go, financialwellness.club. It's a good one. So we've got lots of short form content out there, but really it's like helping to like demystify and like open up the concept. Like, here's the funny thing. One of the videos that we did recently was how to open up a checking account. And at first I was like, oh, this is kind of silly. But then I was talking to someone, one of these young girls in our world. And I was like, hey, can we just, send you a Venmo or Zelle? And she goes, oh, I don't have a checking account.
Can you imagine?
She's like 19 or 20. I'm like, well, do you know how to start one? She's like, no.
Establishing credit, all of it.
She's like, no one's ever taught me. It's like, oh, okay, well, let's, instead of like making someone feel bad, like, why don't you have this? Like, let's walk you through this.
That's consumer math. That's consumer math.
That's a consumer.
All right. Well, man, I so appreciate you jumping on and being a part of it. Here's what I learned today. Not just stuff about finances, but I learned that if I come to your church a few minutes early, I will definitely find a seat.
And you're going to get put on a team if you come early.
All I learned is if I show up to your church a little bit early, I'm definitely going to grab a seat.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Same with my church.
It's like that first song. First song is, we're so glad you're here, everyone.
Yes. All right. Well, listen, if you haven't listened to the other episodes on season 7, make sure you do. And then we got seasons 1 through 6. Go blitz this thing. Go binge it. It's going to be awesome. So grateful to have you guys on. Make sure you check out. Listen, get to the conference. You're going to love it. What God's doing is special. So we'll see you again.